Hi, ladies. Sharon Tash, Tash Wellness for Women, and I am honored to have with me Meg Bowman, who is a friend of mine. I met her through networking. We were just trying to figure out where did we meet, but we saw each other at a lot of networking events. She's a wonderful nutritionist that gets it. I really like the fact that Meg is like me. We're going through the struggles every day. We don't eat clean 1,000%, but we work on loving ourselves and enjoying life and being mindful. And that's what I love about Meg. So let me give you a little introduction on Meg. Meg Bowman is a licensed dietitian nutritionist who helps people with mental health challenges like anxiety and depression, as well as GI conditions like IBD, IBS, and GERD. Meg utilizes an integrative approach, including elements from functional medicine, mind-body connection, and biofeedback. Her private practice is in Nourish Integrative Solutions, and she also provides clinical supervision and case consultation to early career nutrition professionals through her company's Clinicians Incubator. You can also find Meg online with her new podcast, Snarky Nutrition.
It's super not suitable for work.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's a good thing to know. And Meg is located in Skokie, right on the west side of the Eaton's Expressway, Old Orchard Road. So it is convenient for everybody right off the expressway. So Meg, thank you very much for giving us some of your time.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. First question. During this time, a lot of folks are feeling added stress. Is there anything we can do from an integrative or nutrition standpoint to lessen the impact of that stress on our bodies or mental health?
Yeah, this is something that I think about a lot, and I'm sure you see this too, probably really routinely, that when people go through stressors, we frequently find that somewhere down the line, sometimes a little bit sooner, sometimes a little bit further after a stressor, all of a sudden we start seeing physical conditions pop up. Mm-hmm. We have the stress, and then we have there's a lot of studies that have looked at this. So I'm looking at this scenario where everybody's under stress going, oh my gosh, how can we think about this, in a way to support the body and hopefully prevent diseases and conditions from popping up in the next 1 to 5 years. Some of the things I think about, there's of course food approaches. Not all of those are super accessible right now because you get what you get at the grocery store.
Right.
And there's also mind-body things. So, on the food side, I think about things like making sure you're getting your beneficial bacteria, whether that be through taking a probiotic or whether that be through eating yogurt or kombucha or heck, black tea is fermented. Raw honey has bacteria in it. However you want to do it, that would definitely help. Making sure you have some sources of omegas, omega-3s. So fish oil capsules, preferably omega-3 capsules. Not all fish oil is omegas, but some omega-3 capsules, or just eating fish if you can get it. That'd be great. Or walnuts, chia seeds, flax seeds. So on the nutrition side, that's what I'd focus on, plus protein, just getting protein. And on the anxiety, on the other side, with stress, some things people just need to move their bodies, and that's what you're helping them with. It's critically important for us to move our bodies during stressors. When we look at the pattern of stress in the body, everybody talks about fight or flight, right?
Right.
When we look at some of the research around when people have trauma, fight or flight or freeze are the possible reactions. Freeze is pretty much the most predictive for later problems with trauma. So as much as we can actually be moving our bodies through this, I think that's an amazing thing.
You talked a little bit about omega-3 capsules. You talked about prebiotics or
Yeah.
probiotics. A lot of people buy these things over the counter. What
Yeah.
is your opinion of buying things over the counter? Okay, I opened a can of worms.
No, you didn't necessarily open a can of worms. It depends on what you're trying to do. So let me give you an example. Somebody for general health, you know, that has generally speaking good health and just wants to support their body through this time. Do I particularly care what kind of probiotic bacteria they get? No, I don't particularly care. I think where I start getting a little twitchy about self-prescribing is when somebody, as an example, this happened not too long ago, somebody had self-prescribed themselves a probiotic and they came in and they're like, my constipation is worse than ever. I don't understand. I'm taking a probiotic and my constipation is worse. I looked at the probiotic. It's a probiotic for diarrhea that they were taking. So there, you know, there are places like when you're trying to be really prescriptive about it, that it sometimes helps to get somebody's input. But you know, there's some I would never worry about it from the food standpoint. So get your fermented sauerkraut from the refrigerated
Right.
section. You know.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Number two, what about anxiety? What if
Yeah.
people are feeling a lot of anxiety in their bodies or having racing thoughts? Are
Yeah.
there any non-medication approaches that are good for that?
Yeah. You know, again, this comes down to like what's actually available. And I don't know how much you're aware of this, but I use an online apothecary. And right after kind of some of the stay-at-home orders came in, nothing was available. So I almost hesitate to tell people to use supplemental approaches because it's just such a hit or miss.
Right.
But probably one of my first go-tos for some occasional anxiety would be something like magnesium.
Right.
And you can absolutely get it over the counter. This is not something that you want to necessarily supersize the dosage on. You know, sometimes people think, okay, the bottle says 1, I'm going to take 4.
Right.
Yeah, you might get heart palpitations.
That's right.
If you do that. So let's stay with the dosage on the bottle. But generally speaking, unless you have some pretty severe kidney issues, I don't feel like magnesium is something that is usually problematic, and it really calms the body down.
Yeah, it helps with sleep too.
It absolutely
Yeah.
does. It's amazing. Yeah, and if you are on the constipated side, magnesium citrate helps with that. The other forms of magnesium don't particularly help with that. So if you also happen to be constipated, look for the citrates. But you know, the other things that I do with clients when they have anxiety is really encourage them to watch how it is in the body. So that concept of, you know, we want to make the body feel safe because you're not going to logic anybody out of anxiety. It's impossible. So looking for something in the room that makes you smile or feels good, looking for that social connection, just like we're doing right now, like watching other people's faces, smiling faces makes you feel better. Watching your posture, right? I don't know. Are you one of these? The stress?
No.
I'm one of these.
Because I've worked on it.
Yeah. I definitely, that's how I notice my stress is when my shoulders go up.
Okay.
Then I'm like, oh, okay. We got something going on here. So just, you know, a quick notice of posture or slow, deep breaths, or I even love just some vocalizations. It just makes me feel so good. You know, when you're anxious and you're kind of stuck in your head and your body, how good does it feel just to go, ah.
Yes. Yes. Another thing that I like to do is take a pillow.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm angry about something, just get out the aggression or pound on it. Yeah. I don't want to carry it around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very important to get rid of it.
Yep.
Okay, number 3, what are people's experiences around food during this time? Is there a normal?
Hell if I know. I mean, I'm sure you're hearing a lot about this too. I generally think that people under stress go one of two directions. They're the not eaters or they eat more than usualers.
Absolutely.
The not eaters are the ones that I really, really, really worry about.
Correct.
Because, we know that, like, as an example, there have been numerous studies that have looked at this, but serotonin is a neurotransmitter that helps us feel good, right? When people talk about Prozac, it's a serotonin recycler. And we know based on studies that you can take somebody without anxiety or depression, deplete them of the type of protein that makes serotonin in the body, and roughly 40 to 60% of those people are going to be depressed and anxious in half a week.
Wow.
So it's the people that don't eat that I get really, really worried about. But even the people that, eat more than usual, if they're not eating protein, again, we could just be setting ourselves up for this really vicious cycle.
Absolutely. And what are some good sources of protein that you recommend?
There's so many. You could do anything from animal proteins. That's sometimes a little bit harder to get. I know some friends of mine in
Well, now
California.
it's going to be even,
Now it's going to be
I don't
even
even
more.
want to touch anything like that.
But things like, beans are great. There is protein in nuts and nut butters. Tofu has protein. You could get the tempeh, which is a ferment, and then all of a sudden you got your beneficial bacteria too. There's a lot of different things that you could do. If you have a protein powder around the house, you could certainly use that. Eggs is my favorite breakfast with
too.
some greens.
Can I ask you a quick question? Because you mentioned tofu.
Yeah.
Most of my ladies are 60 and above.
Yeah.
Is it something we should be concerned about, eating tofu?
This is such a really good question, and I'm going to say that my mind has changed in the last 5 to 7 years. Because I definitely, came out of school going, ooh, soy, no, especially if we are concerned about, any of those possibilities with the estrogen-based cancers. And you know what? I think the research has kind of changed a little bit. I don't think I would ever say that it's a super awesome idea to eat a lot of the processed soy. The textured vegetable protein, even soy milk. Like, I'm not okay. But the tofu, the tempeh, the ways that people have been making soy for millennia, I think the literature is going in a much more favorable way. I was just at a hormone conference through IFM last summer, and they definitely were very pro soy, even sometimes in people who had estrogen-based breast cancers.
Interesting. And IFM, they're the gold standard nowadays. Can you talk a little bit about that? I tell my clients a lot about functional medicine.
Yeah.
And I know you're very involved in it. And talk about why functional medicine is different than conventional medicine.
Sure. So I think there are two parts to it. One, if I have somebody come in that has blood sugar issues, in a conventional model, I'd teach them how to count carbs, and I'd send them to their doctor for metformin. In a functional medicine model, I'm really curious as to why their blood sugar is high. Do we have an issue with their stress hormones? Do we have an issue with the bacteria in their gut, which is super indicative of, blood sugar issues? Is there something going on that high stress situations that are causing that whole system to go out of whack? And then if any of those are the case, what can we do about those to help kind of get underneath what the problem is in a very different way? Right. The other thing that functional medicine does really well, conventional medicine is really focused on pathogenesis, what's the pathology of the disease? And functional medicine tries to be focused on the salutogenesis, or the, how can we not stop disease, but how can we create health? It makes an active verb out of that process. So what are some of these things that we can do? People come in, I'm sure you talk to your people about this all the time, but people don't understand how important it is to be quiet. in your bodies and have some sort of, I don't care if you want to call it meditation, people freak out about that. I don't care what you call it, but some sort of practice to get your nervous system calm. We just think, oh, we don't need to do that. But we do, our bodies need it. So that's where kind of the integrative and functional approaches can kind of push you in a different direction than conventional ones.
And I learned, I mean, I've carried weight my whole life. I was born heavy, always had a problem with carbs. I just put on the weight. And through functional medicine, we figured out that my mom was under a lot of stress when she was pregnant with me.
Yeah.
So the cortisol went straight from her to me. So I was basically born insulin resistant.
Yeah.
That's what functional medicine does. It helps us, and it really gets to the meat of, why do you have high blood pressure? Not, let me give you this. Or why do you're close to getting diabetes? Let me give you metformin. Oh, and by the way, you need to take vitamin B's with that. And then you have to take this. And everything we take has a side effect.
Everything's tied. And this goes back to, the first things we were saying. You can give somebody, based on their stress load in the last year, you can give them a accurate prediction, statistical prediction, how likely they are to develop disease in the next 5 years, 5 to 10 years, if you don't manage that piece. It's
correct.
That stress piece, like you were talking with your mom. It's such a huge thing. I've had clients whose families lived through the Irish potato famine, whose families were Holocaust survivors. All that epigenetic, above the genome data, all that gets passed down, and until you really work hard to try and break that cycle.
And it's all within our bodies, and we need to take care of it, or we're going to carry it on with us.
Yeah.
Very true. My last question, what about sleep? Do you have any ideas for people who are anxious right now at night and can't sleep?
Yeah. I have lots of ideas. There's a lot that I probably wouldn't give somebody that I didn't see their medical records.
Oh, correct.
Generally speaking, again, magnesium is a great one that is safe for a lot of people. The other one that we can start using on the supplement side are a category of herbs that we call nervines or adaptogens. So the nervines are things like chamomile, which is a really great thing to kind of bring that nervous system down. The adaptogens are something that are going to, how do you want to explain this? Buffer the body against stress. So things like ashwagandha, which I swear when 5 years ago I said the word ashwagandha, nobody had ever heard it. And now everybody's like, oh yeah, I take that. So things like ashwagandha or, potentially even licorice, or there's a bunch of them. Tulsi, holy basil, there's holy basil tea. Although probably not good to take if you're having trouble sleeping, but there's all the adaptogens you can do. But honestly, I really find that some of this, I think they're kind of dumb ways are best. Like, let's make sure we have darkness in our room. Let's make sure that we're watching the blue light screens, a couple hours before bed. Let's making sure that we're getting a lot of antioxidants in our diets, the colors of vegetables and fruits. Let's make sure that we're getting light. And I know it's better. It's still not good here in Illinois.
Right. Yeah.
But light in the first couple hours of the day. And, in the absence of any of that working, yoga nidra works like a champ. And yoga nidra, for those that don't know, it's not a bendy yoga. Yeah. It's a yoga that you do totally laid down. You don't have to move at all. And it basically walks you through your body parts. And I love it for sleep, even though it isn't necessarily what it's indicated for. But I love it because if you do a traditional meditation, you're trying to frequently, watch your thoughts or send your thoughts off like a bubble and let them go. With yoga nidra, your thoughts are really specifically like, can I feel the pinky toe on my left foot?
Wow. Okay.
And so it's really directed, and you can't spiral like you can with some of the other meditation practices. So I would say yoga nidra too.
Very nice. You know, this has been very informative. Love talking to you. You're very well educated. You're very good at presenting things so that it comes down to a verbiage that everyone can understand. You're not trying to talk above everybody. And I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And I feel like, there's 10,000 ways to do any one thing in this world. So it's important to me when I work with people to find the way that works for them, just like you do.
Right. Now, how can people get a hold of you, Meg?
There's two ways. So my website is Nourish, ISNOURISHIS.com. You could also phone if you want to. The business line is 847-461-3321. And people can book a free 15-minute chat online. They actually won't get me. They'll get my associate Tessa to do the chat, but she'll figure out where it's appropriate to put you based on what you got going. Because if you got thyroid, you're not going to see me, you're going to see her. So we all have our specialties.
Very good. And I will put all of that information in the chat on YouTube. All right.
Great.
Thank you so much, Meg. I appreciate your time. And
it's been a pleasure.
Again, thank you.